Hey y'all, it's my birthday! And as luck would have it, today is also the day that I'm posting up my 50th story up on NoSleep, and since I'm not exactly a fan of acknowledging my own mortality, I'll talk about that instead. I've also released an ebook of my stories, and I'll talk about that at the end of the video. So, to the uninitiated, NoSleep is a corner of the internet where writers post pulp horror fiction as first-person accounts of something that actually happened. Not only is it one of the few places online where you can still find a crowd of people to read creative writing, but there's also this whole pipeline to the YouTube creepypasta narration circuit, which blasts your writing to, frankly, overwhelming amount of ears. I'm a zealot with recommending this type of stuff. If you're a writer and you're looking to sharpen your fingers and maybe broaden your audience, go to NoSleep. I stumbled upon this place back in January and the experience has been fucking magical. There's oodles of stuff that I have to say on the subject, and if we were in a dingy bar I would happily ramble your ear off for 45 minutes, but since this is the internet and I'm competing for your attention with Jimmy Fallon and pornography, I'll try to boil down my experience to a 5-point listicle. So with no further ado, here are the 5 things that I've learned from writing 50 short stories for NoSleep. Not the first person to say this, and I'm definitely not the last, but I think this is one of those truths that has to be repeated over and over and over again because it's one of the truths that doesn't seem true on the bad days. Upvotes rely on luck and audience size as much as they rely on quality, if not more. The amount of writers who come to NoSleep make a huge splash with the first story and then get demotivated because the rest of their stories aren't splashing enough is a real bummer, and there's definitely some beautiful gems in the 5 to 50 upvote range, and I think it is really important to keep on repeating the fact that upvotes do not matter. Keep in mind that whenever you post up anything on the internet, you're not dealing with a human, you're dealing with a computer. You're dealing with a computer who is also dealing with 1,000 other people who are posting up their own creative baby at the same exact moment. In the eyes of the computer, you're no different than the rest of the people who are posting stuff up. And in reality, you are no different than the rest of the people who are posting up their special creative child, because no one's special. The only real metric that the algorithms have to see whether your stuff is good is how many people react to it in the first couple of hours. Are the people who usually read your stuff currently online? Will the algorithm show the story to 20 people who are not your target audience and then decide that because they haven't reacted that it's just not a good story? Will somebody with a giant following post at the same exact time and take away attention? You can't control those things. Don't sweat them, keep on hustling, and just hope that the next creative child will do better. Mike, but that doesn't lessen the sting. I hear you say. When I release something into the world and when no one interacts with it, dread still festers in my stomach like I ate the rotten meat of a lonely animal. Just because we can rationalize the fact that we don't have a lot of control over how much attention our work gets doesn't make going unnoticed suck less. There is, however, something that does make it suck less, but I'll keep that nugget of knowledge for the final point of the listicle. Wink, wink, wink. I know I've just spent a couple of paragraphs talking about how you can't control upvotes, but if there is anything that can help you cozy up to a bigger audience, it's your title and the first couple of paragraphs. It sounds mighty reductive, but if your title doesn't scream "click me," then most people won't click. The instinct to give your baby a title that really encapsulates everything together and that ties the whole story into a single neat package is great, but again, keep in mind that you're competing with hordes of other people who are also putting up their creative children for sale. Optimally, there's something that both is worth clicking and that also encapsulates your story, but when in doubt, clickbait or don't. I try to finish every story that I write, and I try to post up every story that I finish, but sometimes the results are less than stellar, but I've still put enough attention into the story to justify throwing it out into the universe. When I find myself in that position, I just go for a really vague title. If someone enjoys it, great. Main thing is I don't have a dead story on my desktop that I'm gonna spend months fiddling with. If I get hit by a light bolt of inspiration a couple years down the line, then great, I can just rewrite the story. The internet has a short enough attention span to forget the original. Backlog writing is the balm to my neurotic soul. Every time that a story would do well and my little audience would grow, I would get kinda nervous. What if the story that I just released is the best thing that I'll ever write? What if it's all a fluke? What if they all leave? It sounds a lot more neurotic than it actually is. It sounded like I was running around the house tearing out my hair. God knows my scalp can't afford that, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a level of neuroticism associated with every bit of success that I got. Nervousness doesn't make for a good writing environment. You end up second-guessing yourself, over-analyzing the piece that did well, and just generally thinking about stuff that is not relevant to the things that are happening on the page. It's just not as fun to write in that headset. It's just a lot more fun writing without the pressure. That's why I work on a backlog. Every Tuesday, I check out a new written story, and every Friday, I put up a narration of an older story on my YouTube channel. At the time of recording, I have enough content on hand to cover all of October. Theoretically, I could take a break for a month and nobody would know, and I'm not gonna take a break, but knowing that I could definitely makes me a calmer writer whenever I sit down to work on a piece. There's no real deadlines for me to run up to. Obviously, the chance for a fresh-eyed edit 2 months after writing the story is great. The whole backlog thing has definitely helped out in the quality department, but I also think that writing into a backlog helps get more distance between you and the internet feedback loop. If slaving over each and every paragraph is a real and recent memory, then going unnoticed or disliked stings. But if the amount of effort you put into this story is just a vague memory from 2 months ago and it doesn't do well, well, shit, who cares? If they don't like it, there's another one coming next week, and hopefully they'll like that one more. The more you write, the easier it gets. Not to get all motivational speaker on you, but I legitimately think that the hardest part of learning a new skill is trying. Everything else comes naturally. Your dialogue gets better the more you write dialogue. Your story structure gets better with the more stories you structure. You find your problem areas, you work on your problem areas, and then you progress. The only really difficult part is sitting down and opening up your ego to the sting that finding your problem areas might bring. You know, the whole willingness to fail thing. There's something about having a backlog of finished stories that makes it a lot easier to sit down and try writing a new one, especially if there's stories in that backlog that did not do good. I have these moments where I'll just like sit back and be like, ah man, remember when you wrote Neon Man? Nobody read that, but you still think about the guy whenever you go out for a jog. It definitely makes it easier to write something now because I know that I will write a better story than I did 6 months ago. Which brings us to the final dramatic point of the listicle. But first, an interlude. It's 2018. Me and my buddy from university sit down on opposite ends of the continent, get on Skype, light up bongs, and start streaming the masterpiece of cinema that is 1996's Space Jam. It's been a while since we hung out, and I'm looking forward to rewatching a movie I adored as a kid, but as the opening of the film starts to play, I realize I can't stop coughing. The bong hit was entirely too strong. As the opening studio logos flash across the screen, I feel like I'm an astronaut who's about to float off into the darkness of space. I am not having a good time. I look at the clock and remind myself that in 15 minutes I should be feeling better. But time drags. Before I know it, I register the Space Jam theme song playing over the opening credits. Rationally, I know that it hasn't been playing for longer than 30 seconds, but deep in my heart of hearts, I know that it's been playing for much longer than that. It's been playing for an eternity. I have died, and this is the music of the afterlife. Dude, what if after you die, all you heard was the Space Jam theme song? I say. My friend laughs. By the time Bill Murray is on screen, I'm feeling significantly better. My friend and me just watched the rest of Space Jam, and then we catch up on life after the movie. Lazy Sunday evening spent well. 2 years later, beginning of the pandemic, I'm writing stories for NoSleep. I finish off my 6th story and go searching for a new idea. That memory pops up. I write the story, thoroughly entertained by the terrifying prospect of death just being one long, ever-repeating rendition of the Space Jam theme song. There's something about the idea that fascinates me. I presume that other people might find the idea scary kind of funny. They don't. Story gets maybe 4 readers. No narration request. Well, I think, gently bummed out. It can always get a second wind in the YouTube narration sphere. I hit up my friend. He records a narration. I post it up on the YouTube channel. And no dice. Gets a couple of confused compliments on the Space Jam theme song remix forums. but at the end of the day, it sadly remains among my least popular stories. Half a year later though, it still remains one of the stories that I think about when I'm going to bed and I need an extra spike of dopamine. I am legitimately happy that I wrote that story. That I took an obtuse moment from my early 20s and committed it to paper. No one can take that away from me, and honestly, that's my favorite part of this whole writing thing. An audience is always nice. Praise and words of support and some sort of a path towards making creative writing a career is always nice. But 6 months from now, you don't remember the stories that you wrote in descending amounts of upvotes. You remember the ones that meant the most to you. It's nice when cloud and satisfaction mix, but others telling you you did a good job is a fleeting sort of happiness. The stuff that really sticks around, the stuff that will get you through the cold, hard nights, is personal pride. Upvotes don't matter. They're just numbers. Now would you please comment, like, and subscribe to this channel because I need to feed this YouTube algorithm. There's new narrations of my stories every Friday. There might be some more videos of me talking about this whole writing thing if you want more of that. And there's some really cool stuff coming in October. Also subscribe to r/MJL Presents on Reddit for text versions of my stories. Also, as mentioned at the start of the video, I have an ebook out right now. It's called In 2012 I Was Seduced by a Possessed Couch, and it is a collection of 8 short stories and a novella about a sexy eldritch couch that I wrote during quarantine. If you want to throw $2 at me, I'll leave a link down in the comments to the Amazon page. If you don't have any cash, no worries, all of the stories are still narrated on this channel. With the exception of The Birds Hate Me for What I Have Done, but that narration should be coming at some point in late October, I think. But if you enjoy the stories and you want to leave an Amazon review on the book, feel free to do that. Anywho, that's me. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more of my stuff, then links will be somewhere around this area. Hope you're safe, sane, and healthy wherever you are. See you next week.